so let's not talk. Or maybe we should talk.
I don't know. Maybe we should.
So this new style, oh, there it is. It's quick. And I noticed this when, and I don't usually just go back and listen to our live streams anymore, but I did by chance, and I heard some things. But it wasn't us talking. It was more like noises like this.
Well, yeah, maybe people should look behind the scenes where we start partying and doing all these crazy things.
And drinking wine. I saw you one time.
Oh, yeah. Haram.
Yeah. You know, I saw a picture of Muhammad Hijab on the beach with, and they zoomed in on, he's having some alcohol. And the wording is, Muhammad Hijab caught drinking alcohol. As if, and it may be the case, as if he didn't want to be caught, or like caught meaning like it's a bad thing, you know?
Yeah, I mean, people make so much of these things that it loses its significance anyway.
Well, a lot of what they're doing is, like, you'll hear people say, I hate the what do they call them? Something like progressive Muslims or the hypocrite Muslims more than I hate the like true Muslim who really wants to do all the evil shit, which is weird because, and actually I remember a comedian really making fun of this. It starts with an N. He passed away recently. I forget his name, but his joke is to do with Hitler and the Nazis and the Jews and the Holocaust.
Mm-hmm.
And I think he's Jewish. His parents are, went through that.
Okay.
And he goes, you know what's funny? It's interesting. He goes, you hear people say something about, hypocrisy is the worst, or being a hypocrite is the worst. And he goes, oh, I would think the murdering is the worst part. It's funny.
Yeah, that too.
So he's making the same point I'm making, right?
Yeah.
Hey, Rose.
Hey, how are
Hi,
you?
can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, wonderful to have you.
Thank you very much. It's great to be here.
Yeah, that's.
Sorry, I've been running a little late. I hope I haven't missed too much.
Oh, that's okay. We were just talking about. Actually, we started getting into ideas already. We weren't intending to.
Yeah.
Let's get your opinion. I was mentioning how you'll find some people who say what they hate the most is hypocrites, and like the example is a hypocrite Muslim who like says Islam is not that bad, or whitewashes things and tries to say a lot of the bad things that are actually in there are not in there or whatever. And these people are saying they find that to be worse than the more pure Muslims who really want all the really hateful things. And you see this actually more than just with Muslims and ex-Muslims. I was giving an example of a comedian saying the same thing in the context of the Holocaust and Nazis and the Jews.
Sorry. Sorry, I have just settled down and everything's been a bit of a rush. So, no, I think it's really weird. I think it's really, I find it really hard to fathom.
So what do you hate worse? A hypocrite or a murderer?
I shouldn't say it publicly, but probably a hypocrite.
Oh, you too? Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what if somebody is a murderer and the way he's doing it is he's being a hypocrite? Which aspect is worse about him, the murdering or the hypocrisy?
Depends who and why he's murdering. I sound awful, don't I? But if it's in self-defense,
well, that's not murder, anyway.
Oh, okay, fair enough. Probably the murder, because I think life has to be have higher sanctity than anything else and any ideas and stuff like that, because you can bring back it, you can change your mind, you can change your hypocrisy, but you can't bring back a life once you've got rid of it. So that's kind of a no return, no point of return, I think they call it, sort of thing. So yeah, absolutely.
So I find it really weird when people say they hate the hypocrisy the most.
Well, actually, if you want to look at it as a kind of a system instead of just separating the two, I typically see that on the Arabic side of things, the way that these people are viewed, they're being viewed as enablers, basically people who see the bad things happening and then present it in a kind of a way that tries to obfuscate what's actually happening, and basically, like you said, whitewashes the whole thing. And so it's a kind of a system. I wouldn't call it a symbiotic system where one of them feeds into the other. They obviously have some kind of an opposition to one another in one sense, but yeah, it's very hard, for example, to see clerics that are mainstream go out and condemn terrorist attacks outright, for example. This is so hard for them, and they start bringing up so many different justifications. But for example, ISIS and Al-Qaeda, they were never really considered as heretical, for example, the same way that they might have been portrayed in Western media. It's really hard to see a cleric say, well, these are no longer Muslims. The Islam that we're claiming is one that does not have any of that. We are peace loving, and he might truly be peace loving, but the way that it's being presented it's just that not. It doesn't have any condemnation or an outright opposition to that view. And so yes, those enablers are a danger.
I think there's two categories in your one category you described. What we're calling the hypocrites, I think there's within the hypocrites, there's people who are passive and are kind of doing it as a coping mechanism. They're being forced into it, because they're good at heart, but they're also Muslim. I don't know if this is making sense to people.
Oh, it does, yeah.
Okay. And then the other category is what I would call the enablers, in the sense that they really know what they're doing, and they're really trying to help the Muslims that are doing the bad things. Is that too general?
No. I think the main reason why people possibly hate hypocrisy so much is the fact that it doesn't just come with being two-faced, but it's also very much a case of it can be used as a form of gaslighting, a package of things like gaslighting and manipulation and enabling people or enabling the worst atrocities. And so it's really hard for people who are being abused by this hypocrisy and don't see through it. It's really hard for us as people who can see the hypocrisy and have got clarity of mind, because we're like, oh my God, this is absolutely insane. What is going on in here is really disgusting manipulation, it's gaslighting, it's abusive and things like that. And I think that's why we hate hypocrisy so much. So when someone says, who do you hate most, murderers or hypocrisy, and you're like because a lot, I think they say that a lot of people who do the most horrendous things, in their mind, they're justified, they're the heroes, everyone's the hero of their own story, aren't they? And they've got these sort of really twisted, hypocritical ways of justifying it. I don't know if that will make sense. That might be a rambling, but
I understand what you're saying. Yep. And I had a thought and I wanted to say it, but it's lost now. It might come back.
Well,
ahead.
I was while we were talking, I was thinking about a kind of a meta hypocrisy, that you would see really entrenched in Islam, and goes back all the way to the time of Muhammad. If you look at the Quran, it talks a lot about the hypocrites and munafiqun. These are the people who were basically resisting Muhammad in Medina when he was trying to create his rule there. And they were probably just honest people that simply didn't want that person to rule over them with whatever ideas he wanted to prevail. Because eventually he was trying to enforce certain things that would infringe on their rights to practice whatever they want to practice. So that's one kind of thing. There's a very outright condemnation of hypocrisy in the Quran, and in the Sirah you find that in so many different places. And at the same time, there's that very famous incident of Ammar bin Yasser, who was supposedly tortured, and his mother was killed by the Quraysh in Mecca, just because he was saying, I support Muhammad. And so he was encouraged by Muhammad to deny him, to say anything that would save his life. And that's where this concept of taqiyya probably originated, which is religiously sanctioned hypocrisy. So you have these two different things, and a kind of a double standard that lets you condemn hypocrisy on one end, and then say, yeah, you should do it in order to save your life, to promote the cause of religion. And it's not only something that's Islamic. You can find it in so many different contexts. But it's fascinating and somewhat discouraging to see that this is something that's built into the whole thing.
Someone's giving us an example of a type of hypocrisy. It's always useful to use examples. Sometimes, at least for myself, I talk too much in the abstract, too much general. Anon user is saying, for example, people in Pakistan are very religious Muslims, but Pakistan is no one in gay porn. What exactly is he saying? I think I know what he's saying there, which is, in Pakistan, they're like, a lot, very Muslim over there, or at least supposed to be, but they're the ones watching gay porn the most.
Not just gay porn. They are sorry, I think I'm having technical difficulties now. Sorry.
Okay.
I will just.
If you want to fix that and come back, that's okay. Yeah,
sorry,
sure. No problem. Well, let me continue something, and when Rose comes back, or when it works again, we'll continue on this, and I'll leave it on the screen to remind us. The thing I finally remembered what I wanted to say to continue what Rose was saying earlier. I think maybe the main, or a necessary way to judge whether, which is worse between hypocrisy and murder, and specifically talking about the hypocrisy, we think about what is their motivation for doing it. If their motivation for doing the hypocrisy is like self-defense, in the case of, you're under tyranny, like, you're under the tyranny of your parents in some cases. They don't want you to leave Islam. They get angry even suggesting the idea of leaving Islam. So you got to stay a Muslim, at least outwardly. But you also want to live your life. Let's say you're not even a Muslim, but you're just saying it to your parents that way. And, you don't want people to catch you. You don't want to get in trouble. You're going to have to act like a hypocrite because you're doing one thing, telling the world a different thing. That's the self-defense, though.
Yeah.
If your motivation is something else where it's offense, and I think that's what Rose was saying, although I forgot the words she was using. Did she use the word narcissist? Or at least some language from narcissism language.
Maybe. Mm-hmm.
Like
the manipulation and gaslighting were the words.
Manipulation and gaslighting. Yep, that's the kind of language you hear in narcissism talk. Manipulation and gaslighting. If you're gaslighting someone, I mean, and what we mean by there is your goal, you know what you're doing, and you're trying to cheat this person, trick them, and that's an offense. It's an abuse. It's not self-defense. Is that making sense? Like why somebody is doing the hypocrisy? So there's a good one. There's a good reason to do hypocrisy.
Yeah. I was gonna. Sorry about my issues here. What the gentleman, I'm assuming it's a gentleman, it might not be, but what they're referring to when they say that Pakistan is the #1 in gay porn, I'm not sure about the gay porn bit, but Pakistan is actually one, I think it is, I'm pretty sure it's the biggest porn sorry, I'm not used to being on shows, the biggest consumer of porn online.
Yeah.
And so, and some of the terms that they search are down, like things like bestiality and stuff like that as well, quite common. So it that's what they're referring to, and there is a lot of hypocrisy. I think the other thing I've been thinking about is the hypocrisy when it comes to a lot of Muslims assume that Westerners are over-sexualized, and you hear a lot of talk about Western women being sort of like SLUTs, and really seen as in a derogatory way as well. And the hypocrisy of that compared to when I found out just like about a year ago, in my 40s, about how the hijab came into place, and that story of one of the big guys in Islam, I think it was Uthman or something like that, and he berated a woman for covering up and wearing a hijab because she was a slave and she had to have her bosom on show to show and have her covered from the navel to the knee because she was a slave woman. The absolute hypocrisy of that as well, it cuts to the core. The more you study Islam, the more you sort of like, it's like you're watching a farce and you can't believe this can be true. The other day I was preparing for a show on reform in Islam and whether or not it's possible, and the amount of reforms that Islam has done so it can survive is unbelievable. The amount of changes they've made to the Quran, the amount of bending over they've done to keep relevant to modern times and stuff like that. One of the biggest hypocrisies was when I heard about Abu Talib. I think the name's Abu Talib. He's one of Muhammad's uncles, and he was a non-believer. But he's seen, you guys might know more about this than I do because I can't remember the exact date and stuff, the name and that. But he was seen as a protector of Muhammad and of the faith, even though he was an atheist or a non-believer anyway. And that hypocrisy, when I found that out, I was just like, a lot of the time, I think why people hate hypocrisy so much is because it is so self-interested. And people who are hypocrites are usually self-interested, self-righteous, self-sanctimonious, God gets, I don't want to swear because I don't, but yeah, I'm sorry, I do go on little rants, but that was what my thinking was with that.
No, it was good. Thank you. And looks like Anon user agrees with you. Men in Pakistan think the Western women is exactly they see in porn. Oh, yeah. Really? Wow.
Yeah, no, I can actually confirm something of the sort also from the Arabic side, because the way that they see it, there is a kind of a cultural gap that's giving them a very misleading interpretation of what's actually happening in the West in general. So they look at just regular TV. It doesn't have to be porn. And you would see, for example, a woman who is maybe wearing shorts and or a swimsuit or whatever it is that would be considered so revealing and so outrageous in a Muslim culture. And so they would say, well, look how she is essentially prostituting herself. If that's the norm, then this means that the whole society as a whole is basically like that in their view, in that kind of extreme sexualized form that's obviously very far from reality. But at the same time, you do feel a kind of understanding that if they have not actually been exposed, except for these extreme cases, to what's actually in the West, they might form incorrectly a view that's so deformed and so distorted that it's basically at best a caricature of reality.
Absolutely. The other thing that I was going to just mention that's reminded me is, because coming from Bangladesh, I'm not too far from Pakistan, so our cultures kind of lap over a bit, and we share a lot of dramas and language and stuff like that. One of the things that you see constantly in the TV dramas in Pakistan, Bangladesh, India, is this demonizing of assertive women, the demonizing of career women. These, God forbid she sort of like, I don't think they would ever dream of having a atheist or a secular character on these dramas and shows like that. It's just bad enough that she goes out and has a job and the mother-in-law is horrified, and these ridiculous storylines completely demonizing women just for wanting basic things. And these modern women are painted like the worst of the worst, and they're usually the villains as well. It's quite comical. So yeah, it is pretty tough, because I can't even imagine. I mean, I lived there in Bangladesh for a year, and that was hard enough. But back then, when I was there in the 80s, there wasn't really a rollout of TV and internet and stuff like that. But nowadays, I can't imagine how much harder it must be to unpack and deconstruct that sort of like misogyny that's so much more ingrained in these dramas and things like that, because I can imagine TV's a lot more rolled out because everyone's got their phone there now, even if they haven't got anything else. So yeah, it's absolutely crazy.
Is that, would you say this kind of misogyny is mostly religiously motivated, or is that something that's crossing culture? Because you mentioned not only Bangladesh and Pakistan, you also mentioned India, which is more diverse as far as I understand it.
Yeah. I would say it was very much religiously motivated, but it is also part of general culture as well. But I don't think you can separate culture from religion, because India, I know it's seen as a secular country, but it's not. Effectively, it's not. So yeah,
religion is a kind of culture.
It dictates culture, that's for sure.
Yeah. Religion is part of culture, definitely.
yeah. And it's not instead of, like, there's no such thing as a religion. Like, if we say the word Islam and I'm also saying, religion is culture, right? You can say Islam is culture, but there's every place Islam exists, it's not the same as the other places, partly because there was a culture that was very strong already there before Islam came to it. So it mixed. The old and the new mixed. Every place that has a different style of Islam is because it mixed with the existing stuff from before that. So this is just a theory, but India, which had Hinduism, they're kind of peaceful in my view. So when they mix with Islam, you get peaceful Muslims. Other places, it's a different kind of thing. You get a different style of Muslim.
Well, let me say something about the issue with India, because the entrance of Muslims into India was truly bloody. It was really one of the bloodiest interactions that Muslim had with other cultures. And you can understand the main reasoning for that from the fact that India is not considered to be people of the book. They're neither Jews nor Christians. So they're when you're looking at their choices, they cannot actually maintain their religion, and the only reason why massacres stopped was because it was impractical to just keep killing people and empty the land.
Absolutely. I think there's a big misconception about Hinduism and how peaceful it is. It's had to retreat and it had to water itself down because secularism was such a force in India when in its independence, and people who established India, independence and the constitution were very, very anti-religion, anti-Hinduism, anti-religion generally, and secularism was such a prominent part of it. But Hinduism, they do have in some of their holy scriptures things like cutting the tongues of blasphemers and unaliving blasphemers and things like that. And there have been, sadly, a lot of rationalists who have been unalived. Sorry, I'm used to TikTok safe language, so I don't want to get you banned, so I don't know what words not to use and stuff.
I don't know either, by the way.
So if you look up people like Gauri Lankeshwar and Narendra Dobholkar, I think that I'm pronouncing the names right. They were secular rationalists who were assassinated because of their rationalist views and stuff like that. I am quite close friends with ex-Hindu atheists, an organisation of secularists who have left Hinduism, and the main organizer there, the horrendous attacks he's had from the police because of his activism. They destroyed his laptop and things like that. And he quite often I hear about him having been attacked and really harmed, and he does say that if anything happens to me, then please do your best to make sure this organization continues its work. And so, yeah, when people say it's peaceful, I'm like, it breaks my heart that there's not enough knowledge of that, because it is like such a big part of our world and stuff like that. And for people not
that's
to,
why I said this is just my little theory.
Yeah.
I don't know
absolutely. I don't mean to mansplain or womansplain.
No,
or
that's
anything.
okay. That's okay.
Yeah.
Actually, it's good that you're here to explain this, because I'm guessing Usama also doesn't know.
Yeah. I mean, I this is not my culture, so I would have no idea about. I mean, I have some general thoughts, but yeah, like you, I would probably come up with theories that have nothing to do with reality.
Yeah. My theory has nothing to do with reality, except I exist in reality and I thought of it.
Yeah. Well, I've seen some of your guys' shows, and you're very intellectual, and some of it's gone over my head. So I'm glad I can bring something to the table, because I was like, what am I going to bring to the table? These guys know everything. Well, not everything, but you guys are very clued up on things. So I'm glad I could bring something.
Too much to know everything for one person.
Definitely. Yeah, absolutely.
That's why we have to work together.
And looking at a completely different perspective on the same thing when we're talking about Islam, like you just said, Rami, if you're looking at Islam, it's going to take on a very different flavor when it's just in a different place. And so a place like Bangladesh, in my mind, I'm just going to lump the whole thing with Pakistan, for example. And I'm sure that there are specific things. The one thing that stands out for me about Bangladesh is the killing of the bloggers. So that's definitely the thing that's most outstanding, which compares to all the blasphemy laws and all the issues that people have in Pakistan. So I'm sure that it's a completely different environment with its own nuances, despite
absolutely. Yeah, it is really worrying situation at the moment in Bangladesh. I don't know too many details, and I'm not always up to date. But until like a year or two ago, there was still a lot of secularism in Bangladesh. So, the constitution of Bangladesh is quite similar to India in that sense. When it was founded by progressives fighting for religious freedom, and a lot of it was to do with being able to speak our own language, because in where we broke off from in Pakistan, they were trying to get rid of our Bengali language because it was seen as not pure, as deriving from Sanskrit, whereas Urdu is seen as sort of like Arabic and like superior and stuff like that. Yeah. And they wanted, and whereas we in Bangladesh, we were very much, we've still got like our capital city, Dhaka, is named after a Hindu god, for Christ's sake, Dakeshwari. So even though the majority of the people in Bangladesh are Muslim, we haven't completely got rid of our Hindu roots as much as they have in Pakistan. We don't try to deny it as much as they do in Pakistan. And yeah, it's just because in the last year or two, since the student protests that happened a couple of years ago, the Islamists have started to rise, and it's becoming quite frightening. They're becoming a lot more emboldened because a lot of the Islamists were actually imprisoned. The Islamists that were caught during the independence war in 1971 in Bangladesh, a lot of them were actually imprisoned and things like that. And there was not as much tolerance of extremism, but they've actually been released and things like that. And and the monument they had for the founder of Bangladesh, and his motto was, it doesn't matter if you're a Bengali Hindu, a Christian Hindu, a Buddhist Hindu, or a Muslim Hindu, that is irrelevant. The fact is that you're a Bengali, that comes first. And it was, I think they call it Bangla Bandhu. I might not be explaining it as well as somebody who's actually from there, but secularism was a big part of it, having that unity and not putting up with that sort of hate and that division that you see in Pakistan, or you've seen over the years. But unfortunately, the Hindu population has declined quite a bit because of attacks and stuff over the years, and as Islamism has carried on rising, like we've seen even in the West.
So they're fleeing?
So yeah, but it's sorry.
So the Hindus in Bangladesh are fleeing to other countries?
I haven't heard about them fleeing, but I have heard about them being attacked and kind of unalived and things like that. Villages razed to the ground and things like that. And I think there might even be a case of quite a few of them have converted just for convenience. I know that happened, not convenience, that sounds awful, but self-preservation. I know that is something I've heard of in Pakistan, where a lot of Hindus have converted just to make their lives more palatable.
Yeah, exactly. Which is what's been going on for 1400 years.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Let me ask something. When you're talking about this kind of secular nature of the leadership, is that something that's also reflected in the population itself? I mean, is the population itself also does it organically embrace that idea?
I think it did. I couldn't say about now, but I think it did. And because, like, for example, I remember when I lived there in the 80s, not in the 80s, sorry, in the 90s. I remember when I lived there, and there was a Hindu family and a Hindu village quite close to my grandparents' village. And we went to the Hindu wedding and stuff like that. And I was really surprised by that when I was there, because I'm actually brought up in the UK. So I was there for a year, but originally like more brought up in the UK. And I was really surprised that we went to a Hindu wedding. They had all the Hindu religious rituals for the wedding. And we were welcomed with open arms. There was no big issue. When we got home, there was a laugh and a giggle and a bit of phobia going on. But when we were there, we were told to be very respectful and care, and treat them like human beings, and nothing else would be tolerated. And I remember my uncle saying, "You do not treat them like crap. You treat them like human beings." So I genuinely think that was something that was
people had
reflected.
to tell you that.
Sorry?
Not you. Like, it's interesting that people felt they needed to say that.
Oh, he didn't. I just tested the boundaries because I was really surprised, because in the UK, so like as a Muslim growing up in the UK, the way we talk about, even back then, the way we talked about Hindus was a lot more derogatory. So I was surprised that we were going to a Hindu wedding. So I was like, oh, okay. I just tested the boundaries. I was like, oh, okay. I can't even remember what I said, but my uncle was like, don't you dare say that, and stuff like that.
Question. Maybe this is a dumb question, but I want to understand this. And this is for both of you.
Yeah.
I'll address Osama directly because he knows the country I come from and this, maybe some of the cities. So in my parents' hometown or city in Syria, Aleppo, Halab, people there will make fun of, let's say, people from Homs, and they'll make jokes in the style of, the joke will say that they're dumb. But I don't think it goes any further than that. It's not really, I don't think the adults have to say to the kids, "Hey, we're gonna go to family in Homs. Don't what was it? Don't do bad things." Don't. I don't think it's like that. Am I right, Osama? There's not that kind of thing.
But there are probably other issues that might get a little bit problematic, especially if you look right now at what's actually happening. Syria, and to the Alawites and to the Druze, and this is not coming out of nothing.
But that's an ethnicity to an ethnicity, where the thing I'm talking about is two different cities.
Yeah,
and it's like you see it everywhere. In the U.S., you have a lot of it.
One
state makes fun of another state. One city in that state makes fun of another city in that state. And I think that's benign, or at least not too evil.
The spectrum on which things can be just jokes into actual harm is very wide. And even in Syria, before any of that, there are many people who coexisted there. There was absolutely no issue. Like Rose was describing, it's just you would have people intermarrying and people having no.
How do you explain the Druze in Syria? They don't marry outside the Druze.
Well, that's a slightly different thing, because it's a kind of an exclusivist ethnic kind of religion where
and they're alone in doing that. And
what
you're saying is, go ahead.
No, they're not alone, but they are one of several sects that do that. Yeah, but when you're looking at a sect that is small enough, they're probably going to intermarry. They're going to have some kind of an initiation ceremony that would have you go through the ranks and become a dignitary or someone who has some kind of an importance in the community. It's not only the Druze, but that's one of those groups. The problem with the Druze is probably something that Rose might also have some idea about in the connection with Ahmadiyya and all the stuff that's happening in Pakistan with respect to that. They're not even considered Muslims. So that's the flavor that's.
You mean by the Sunnis, they're not considered Muslims?
Yeah, and
how about by the Shi'is?
For the Druze, because the Druze combine several things that come from Islam, Christianity, Judaism, and some other other sources that it doesn't look like it's anything similar to the Abrahamic tradition, or it's a kind of a mix where that you would see them. I remember having a close friend of my grandfather who was a Druze. He would celebrate with us Eid al-Adha, for example, which would seem weird. Isn't he someone
Do
who
they self-identify and say that Druze is a flavor of Islam, sect of Islam?
well,
'Cause every time I've heard about it, it is.
they do present themselves like that for the most part.
Is that maybe a self-defense issue, like I was
Yeah,
saying earlier?
I would probably say so, because the way that this was initiated, and I'm not really very well versed in their history, but in the Middle Ages when this started, they had a leader, and there was some persecution that took place, and so they went underground beyond that point. And so even though they would say they would identify as Druze, they would still say, we believe what you believe, essentially. I think for the most part for self-preservation, but I cannot generalize, because in my own experience interacting with them, I didn't really see something that stood out, or as someone would say, yeah, I don't believe this or that item of Islam, for example.
I have a friend who.
Sorry.
I have a friend whose wife is Druze, and so I know a little bit from him, and the way he talks about it is, yeah, it's a sect of Islam. But and by the way, I had no idea of what you just said, Usama, that they actually get a ton of their content from outside of even the Abrahamic religions. But I guess there's something like that in every country, in every place, right?
Yeah, I mean, even if you look at Sufis, they get a lot of the original seed of what they had from pre-Islamic ideas, including Persian religion and local traditions and so on. And so when you're looking at the Sufis and what they actually ended up having, it's a kind of a blend that comes up with elements from this place, elements from that place. And
I wonder what things aren't a blend. Is that what Sunni is supposed to be?
Well, when I was growing up, until last few years, according to our family and our community, and when I was living in Bangladesh, there was only one Islam. We might have Ahmadis in Bangladesh and Shias in Bangladesh, but Oh, hi, Gurwok. I know him from he moderates for Secular Spirit. So yeah. So somebody asked me what my sect was. I was like, I don't know. I was always taught there was just one Islam. And the prideful thing that a lot of people used to say was, unlike other religions like Christianity, who have loads of sects and stuff like that, Islam only has one sect, and that's Islam. So I'm no differently now.
So I got a question for you. You're telling me that as you were growing up, all the Muslims you spoke to, none of them self-identified as Sunni?
No, they were just Muslims. They were just Islam.
You know what? I think that's better than what I saw. Here's what I saw. When I first learned about the sects, I was in an Islamic school in Los Angeles, and I saw someone praying a little bit different than me. The way I was praying was, if you guys can't see it, but my hands were like on my chest.
Mm-hmm.
And the way he was praying was something like, actually, does anyone remember? I don't remember. The Shi'is place their hands somewhere else. That's all, something like that.
Yeah.
And then I went to my parents and said, hey, why was he praying different? Then I heard about Sunni, Shi'i. which is weird. And I want to give everyone a metaphor here, analogy. Sorry, and this is something me and Osama talked about before. I think it's really good. So, and this comes about because me and Osama have a physics background. Okay, so imagine I'm a physics professor and I have an advisor. I don't even know if I'm saying that accurate. Can you have an advisor if you're a physics professor?
Well, it depends on what that advisor. You might have a mentor depending on what level.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, anyway, you're in physics and you have an advisor, and you go up to your advisor. And by the way, you've been working for years in this specialty of physics, and then you go to your advisor and say, "Hey, what's our specialty that we're working in?" That makes no sense, but that's what I did effectively. I was a Muslim. I believed in Islam. I'm doing Islam. I'm doing all the activities, and I didn't know what my specialty was.
Oh, wow.
That's ridiculous. And of course that's what's happening to us. And like when you first like get the Islam programming installed in you, the I don't know what to call it. What would be the analogy? The part of it that says the sect isn't installed in there. There's other files you have to go install.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, so much of Islam isn't installed when you're being brought up Muslim. It's only when you become after you study it for yourself, and then hopefully eventually you become an ex-Muslim, and then you find out even more after you become an ex-Muslim. Because I read more Quran now than I did when I was a Muslim. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Absolutely insane.
The issue of the sex, I guess, is related to the population. So you will find in certain countries there is like a 90% majority of Sunnis, as opposed to just a smattering of other sects here and there. And so those people are probably going to try to be under the radar as much as possible. And especially for Shia Muslims, because in terms of numbers, they are a minority, even though you have big places like Iran, and the majority of Iraq also has Shia. But in other places, you wouldn't even probably know that the person with you is a Shia, because one of the things that they're known for amongst Sunnis, or for a kind of a thing that is a stigma that is attached to Shias, is that they are very hypocritical. They practice taqiyya much more than Sunnis in order to preserve their community, to be able to survive in that
self-defense.
Yeah. And so you might encounter one and you wouldn't know that this person is of a different sect, because they're trying like I mentioned that friend who was a Druze. You know the name because he's a friend, but otherwise, if you just encounter them in the street, you have no idea of what they might be, if there's any kind of a difference. Of course, if they do have some traditional clothing in rural areas where you can clearly see that this person is of a different sect. But it's otherwise, if you're looking at city life, it's very hard.
Hey guys, I want to bring up a comment. Is it Gerwak? Gerwak? Gerwak is saying in reply to someone else, and I'll put that up in a second. Anon user, he's saying, thanks for sharing that. I'm sorry you need to pretend to save your life. Feel free to share more if you like. Now let me highlight that comment, which I wanted to do before, but there was not space. We kept talking too much. And I started, I was going to eventually do it. Now it's relevant. No, it's okay. So this is in reply to what I was saying about the good kind of hypocrisy. Anon user says, in Pakistan, I pretend to be a Muslim every day just to save my life. And here's part of the point. This whole thing started by chance of bringing up this thing about, and I really don't know how it started, about how there's people who say hypocrisy is worse than murder. But I divided it into two categories. There's good hypocrisy and bad hypocrisy. Here's the good hypocrisy, self-defense kind. The bad hypocrisy is the offensive hypocrisy. People are trying to push or advance, I don't know, Islamists. That's a good way to say it.
Yeah, I don't know who mentioned this, maybe you or Rose, that there is some kind of a selfish, maybe not necessarily always a selfish motivation for this, but you're trying to preserve something. You're trying to distort some part of reality in order to, for the sake of preserving something. This could be your own life, which I think if there's anything that can be justified in this kind of context, if preserving your life is the highest aim that you can work for. But at the same time, you can also try to preserve other things. The image of Islam, the image of Muhammad, trying to serve the interests of some group, might be a benign group or a nefarious group. That's a place also where hypocrisy might appear. And so hypocrisy on its own is not something that's either good or bad, but there is a context. What is it that you're trying to do, and what sort of effect what you're doing is having?
To be honest, I've never sat down and, because I'm the sort of person who likes to be honest, even if it's dangerous. The amount of times I've put myself in harm's way when I was a teenager, and I was an ex-Muslim as a teenager, because I was like, this is the right thing to do. But regardless, I think I've never sat down to think that people can and should lie if it saves their life. And it just, I've never really thought about it, because I am friends with an ex-Muslim who lives in Pakistan, and his, as a non-user has just mentioned, he's having to lie to stay alive. And initially he tried to, he was hoping that his mother would be fine with him being an ex-Muslim, and he was saying, I'm going to tell my mum. And I was like, don't. And unfortunately he did, and it, they've had to become estranged from the family. But I think I think a lot of people need to change their mind of what hypocrisy actually means, because there is a good way to use hypocrisy. I've always seen it as a loaded negative term, and that's why when you said, who do you hate most, murder or hypocrisy, and I was like, hypocrite, because I'm sort of neurodiverse, so I'm autistic, and I struggle not to be an absolutist in a lot of ways, because in my mind, if something's wrong, you speak out about it and you sort the consequences, and I've done that a lot, and it's not always played great, but because I live in the West, I've been shielded a little bit, and it's been relatively okay. I'm still alive, luckily, but yeah, hypocrisy, I think it's definitely very important to open up our minds and constantly question things. And like you said, nobody knows everything. We're always learning, and I've learned something new today, so that's really good.
I've learned a bunch of things new today already.
Good.
So please, Rose, please come back.
Oh, thank you. That would be
very selfish.
That'd be great. I was quite nervous before I came on, and I sort of like I looked through the questions that you were getting on subreddit, because the other shows that I've seen that you've gone through the questions on subreddit, the problems people have had, and I'm kind of thinking of this show as an agony aunt show. I don't know if you used to read the magazines and the newspapers with the agony aunts. Oh, okay. So growing up in the teenage girl magazine, sorry, not just teenage girls, but in adult newspapers as well, there's something called an agony aunt column, and it's where people write into somebody in the newspaper.
Yeah, we have that, but it goes by a different name, so I didn't realize what you were saying. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah. What do you guys call it in the States?
I'm trying to remember. Is it Ask the Editor? Is that what it is, Usama?
I guess so. It's ask
So that the audience can talk to the writer of the column, and then the column writer posts all those with their replies. Is that what we're talking about?
Yeah. But in the UK, it tends to be somebody who's apparently sort of like a bit of an auntie and a bit of a soft, sort of like confidant sort of thing, and it's a bit of a quirky thing. I think you guys do it very differently in the States. I thought that was a generic thing that happened everywhere.
I think I know what you're talking about, and yes, there are different versions of this, specifically in the way that you're saying that you have some kind of a person to direct questions to, and this person answers in a kind of an advice or I know what you're saying. Yes.
So this is quite different to what I was expecting, and both ways are absolutely great. So you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you. And it's very flexible now. Our format, basically, if no one shows up, like a call-in, then we go into Reddit posts that I have planned to reply to. If somebody does show up, we just talk about that. And by the way, this was more interesting to me than all the Reddit posts.
Oh, okay.
I might feel bad a little bit for the people that didn't go to our Reddit replies.
Oh, well, yeah. I mean, it's the different formats are great, but a kind of an unplanned direction like what we did today that is really very relevant and showed a lot of rich content.
And the whole thing was very cohesive on one topic: hypocrisy.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah,
and namely the negative view that a lot of people have of hypocrisy. And we're trying to say, look, there's a good and a bad version of it. And by the way, I want to say a third version, which I already brought up earlier, but haven't really talked about. The third version is, it's not self-defense, it's not offense, it is somebody trying to protect their identity. And there's another way to say that. Somebody trying to stay inside of a community that they would lose if they weren't a hypocrite about Islam. If they expose, or I don't mean just exposing to other people. I mean inside their own head. They're saying, no, I want to stay Muslim, but I also don't want to accept marrying 6-year-olds and hell and all that, right? So it's a kind of a self-defense, but what they're defending is not really the person, it's the current identity.
Yeah, is it a form of cognitive dissonance?
Oh, that will be a manifestation. That will be
But I absolutely know what you're saying. I wish I got the word for it as well, because there probably is a word that sort of like sums it up really perfectly.
Or nobody invented the word yet, and it's time for you to invent it.
Yeah, well, all three of us, the three amigos.
Yeah, I went through a period of making words like this, and it was too much words. And then I saw somebody doing it a lot more than me. Let me tell you the name. What's his name? Eric Weinstein. Okay. Eric Weinstein, brother of Brett Weinstein, who's just as famous. Same level of fame, which is not very much. He made probably 500 terms. Maybe one or two are useful or really good or whatever, or have been used afterwards. After seeing that, I thought, you know what? I'm not going to make any more names. Just leave the idea the way it is. It's good enough. Just say the sentence. It's not worth making a name for it. And by the way, so many things, so many things are really just special cases of more general things. So is it worth it making another fucking name? I don't know.
Well, making up a name is you might stumble upon something for the first time personally, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't exist or that it doesn't have a name or some other form that people already use.
Yeah, in a different field.
In a different field, but also it could be something that you just didn't happen to come across, and it's just there. And the problem is when you're just trying to propagate a new word, unless there is some kind of an ability for that to live as a meme, to propagate itself virally. It's
like, as an example, IDW, intellectual dark web, was probably the first name of a concept that Eric Weinstein made and took off a little bit. And then it died. Like, nobody uses it anymore. The word still exists in the form of, there's a subreddit called IDW, but the subreddit now has like no connection at all to the origin of IDW and Eric Weinstein and what was it, Sam Harris and whoever the fuck was in this group. Names don't matter. People focus on names too much.
I think language is always evolving as well. The amount of times new words have come up because it's a shorthand. You know what I mean? I can't think of anything in particularly now, but selfies, for example, that wasn't a word like 2 decades ago, but now instead of saying using a full sentence of saying what you're doing, you just say selfie. And yeah, it's just how it is, I suppose.
They have to have a usefulness to it, like you said, to shorten the amount of words you're using. But man, for that to work, it has to be used a lot. And in the case of Eric Weinstein and the names he makes, nobody was reusing them.
Yeah, this is not how languages grow, because languages have to grow organically like anything else. And if a word is going to have a presence and persist, like the word selfie, it has to have a lot of places where it's where the meme is inhabiting the minds of people. That as a virus, if you were wanting to think about it as a virus, it has to propagate and exist and self-perpetuate in a lot of minds. If you just create it in a kind of a localized place,
just your brain.
Yeah.
And by the way, like in my own personal writing, like I'll make a name for myself to shorthand things, so I don't have to write a whole sentence. And I might even make it public, but it's more like just my blog. I'm not gonna go use these words with other people as if they've already heard them or they know what I'm gonna say. Because by the way, that's gonna create an extra step to have to get them to understand the concept behind the word I'm using when I say the damn thing I'm trying to say.
I think that's where things like jargon come into place, but also when you have people who have been friends forever and they start talking to each other, and sometimes they have their own shorthand, and you're like, yeah, I don't understand the thing. But sometimes that small clique is a big population, and it grows. The word grows, or the language or the way of communicating grows. It's not just a small clique. I think that's kind of what you're describing.
Yeah. By the way, we have some comments that are like in reply to each other and joking. So I'm gonna try to deliver this to the audience. Okay.
Yes.
I think it starts. Here's part of it. Mulhid al-Islam says, "Internet was invented by Hujra al-Aswad ya Dhalimun," and then Gurwak says, "I'm only allowed to speak to the mu'minun." Usama, you want to translate for our audience who doesn't know what's going on?
Doesn't want. So Mulhid al-Islam doesn't want initially. So the internet was invented by the Black Stone, you unjust people.
Unjust people, okay. Dhalimun.
Yeah, and then in the next comment it was that he only speaks to the believers.
Only allowed to speak to them.
Yeah.
I thought Dhalimun means you're destined to suffer.
No, I think that's the same kind of issue we had last time.
Did we?
Madlumun.
Oh, okay. Madlumun. Okay. Yeah, my grammar is not very good. Conjugation is not very good in Arabic.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at all the different rules that things get conjugated, it's very very counterintuitive.
Is
Which
it really?
actually-
Like for me, when I'm trying to understand Arabic, and if there's a word I don't know, you see me do this all the time. I ask, what is the root word?
Mm.
And then I can usually figure out how, but only by intuition, not by like conscious rules I know that I can put in words. By intuition, I can figure out the conjugated versions of that word, and then, figure something out. You've seen me do it. Is mine kind of accurate a little bit?
Yeah, it's once you get a feel of what the language does, then obviously you're going to have.
But you're saying it's not intuitive. So what's an example?
Well, so the fact that you have different forms for conjugating the same root and coming up with different words, you have to actually have enough of those in your mind in order to start recognizing the pattern. That's what I was.
So here's a pattern. Iman means faith. Mu'min, sticking a M in front of it. And of course, you got to change some other things, but I don't know how I'm doing it. Again, intuition.
Yeah, but you have templates.
This is the template. This is one of the templates. Iman means faith. Mu'min, which in my American English logic, because I think in English, not Arabic, even though Arabic was my first language. Amin or Iman, sorry, shit. Is Amin related?
Well, Amin is not even an Arabic word, but it is imported into Arabic from Hebrew.
Does it have any connection to Iman?
Yeah.
What's the connection?
Well, the connection is in Hebrew itself, not in Arabic, because the thing about this is amana, that's the root, which has to do with trust and belief, and
it's very general.
Yeah. So
So by the way, everyone listening, this man Usama knows what's the language?
Hebrew.
Hebrew.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So he's speaking from actual knowledge, not like he heard from someone else said it.
Yeah. So the corresponding word to mu'min in Hebrew is ma'min. So you can see it's basically the same word.
All right, help me with my name, by the way, because I found out my name. Yeah, it's an Arabic name, but it's not just an Arabic name. So really, it's not an Arabic name. It's in 3 languages that I'm aware of: the Arab world, Persians, so Iran language and their culture, and then Jews. And so that means it's got to be a name that's older than all 3. What was there before that? Or something like that, or they mixed early on.
Not necessarily. I mean, even in Arabic, I cannot really trace back.
Okay, well, let me tell you what I looked up about the definitions. In my old, before AI searches of Google, what would consistently come up more than anything is archer. I shoot things with a bow and arrow.
Yeah, okay.
And then I saw something else saying compassion, or the compassionate one, person who is compassionate. Now, if you mix those 2 concepts, you get Cupid.
Okay.
Meaning, and then if with a little bit of artist license, you can go a little bit step further. Remember, we said earlier they're very general, not very precise, right? It's like a family of ideas together.
Yeah.
Each word.
Well, I mean, you can see how this is a kind of an oxymoron in some way, because I can imagine you now with wings holding
a bow and arrow. Well, the bow and arrow, it's not meant to hurt anyone. What it does is target someone and infuses love into them.
Well, that's one of your main things.
It is and that's partly why I chose the tagline for this organization. My vision is of a world where people recognize love as the goal, love as in compassion, and rationality as the method to achieve it. Rationality, like scientific thinking, philosophy, all that, logic, whatever words you want to use. Again, words don't matter.
There you go. So, Well, with my own name, it's a little bit bizarre because the name itself is supposed to be one of the names of the lion in Arabic.
So lion is Asad.
Asad, but Usama is a different name of the lion. There are so many different names.
Okay, what's the root word for Usama?
There is no. So
No root word?
it's not something, as far as I know, it's not something that's reducible to a root. I mean, you can say Asama.
Which kind of means it's not from Arabic, really.
Possibly. But you have also all these ancient words that don't really seem to mean much. So, for example, another name for the lion is Hizabr. It's
Say it again.
Hizabr.
Hizabr?
Yeah. Another name that
doesn't even sound Arabic to me. It sounds like injected from outside.
Another name
Sometimes I hear a word that has all the Arabic letters, but it doesn't sound Arabic to me. It sounds Turkish.
Yeah. Another name that appears in the Quran is, or a name that has been interpreted as being the lion, is Qaswara. So,
Qaswara?
Yeah.
Which would be root word what?
I mean, Qasara.
Okay.
So the verse says, كأنهم حمر مستنفرة فرت من قسورة, as if they were donkeys fleeing from Qaswara, which was interpreted as a lion.
So Anon user, his name also means lion, pre-Islamic or pre-Arabic too. That's kind of what that means.
Yeah. So that what I was going to say about my name is, so many times when at the beginning of my stay in the U.S., people wouldn't know where I'm from. They would say, "Oh, so you're from Afghanistan?" No, I have nothing to do with Afghanistan.
Even Usama, what is it? Usama, what's his last name?
Bin Laden.
Bin Laden. He's not from that place.
He's not from that place.
He was just there when he was doing his thing.
And the thing about the name Osama is that it even precedes Islam. It's not even an Islamic name.
Oh, wow. Well, that's funny though, isn't it? Because like Muhammad wasn't an Islamic name because he wasn't born.
Well, none of the names were Islamic.
Well,
nobody changed their name when Islam started.
Exactly.
And for Muhammad in particular, it's very unlikely that this was the name he was born with. It's very likely to have been either a title or an adopted name. There are a lot of indications that this is so.
Oh, okay, that spoils that one then. I can't use that as an argument, can I?
Is there a female version of the name Muhammad?
No.
But there's Rami and Ramia.
Yeah. Well, even Ramia is not a very common name. But
not common, but they exist.
In Egypt, there is a derived name from Muhammad that is in the dual plural, Muhammadin, for example.
What does dual plural mean?
Okay, so when I want to say two Muhammads, I would say Muhammadain or Muhammadan.
That's one plural.
No.
Oh, I know what you mean by dual plural now. You mean plural, but only two of them.
Yeah. So if you want to do the full plural, you would either do it as Jami' Mudhakkar Salim Muhammadin, or Taksir, which is Mahamid or Muhammad.
You guys want to hear something cool? People who are watching, there's misogyny everywhere, and some places have it worse than others. In the U.S., in like English, there's a lot of saying he for something when there's no reason to. Could have been she. Actually, here's an example. Fireman. Later, it's fire person. Well, although there was only men doing it before. Whatever, that's confusing. But in Arabic, you have stuff like this. If you have one guy, or even if it's a baby boy, you have one grammar. If it's a girl, on a second grammar. That's normal. Like that's how Americans see things. The third thing is, in the American way, the multiple, whether it's multiple boys or multiple girls or a mix of them, it's they. And it strips the male-female part of it. And that makes sense. In Arabic, if you have a group, if it's a group of boys, you have male plural. If it's a group of girls, you have female plural. If there's a billion women but one little boy born yesterday, it's male plural. What do you think of that, Rose?
It's incredible, isn't it? I mean, in Spanish, things like dress, it's actually got a male sounding end. So you'd think it would be a female word, but it's not. Some of the words to describe women's things are actually male as well. It's absolutely insane. And the default in Spanish is actually male as well. Whenever you're describing something, it's automatically seen as male unless the noun or whatever is male, unless it's specified and you have to add an a at the end. But in Bengali, we're quite lucky because we don't really do gender sort of like endings at all. So a lot of it is just neutral. So I've not really had.
I got a question for you.
Yep, go on.
In Bangladesh, and you're saying they don't have the male-female thing in the language as much as the other places. Do you think there's less misogyny either causing that or the other way too? Do you think there's less misogyny that it caused because it has the better language?
I wish, but no, we have Islam there, so no, absolutely no difference whatsoever. Yeah, unfortunately, that's there. But one thing I do sort of like appreciate about the culture in Bangladesh, maybe not so as much over the last year or so, but even sort of like quite devout Muslims, you will. Because I remember having an argument with a Muslim, and it was the typical, why are you hating on Islam and stuff, and I was talking about how it erodes like cultures and it stops you from singing and dancing, and they're like, well, I'm a professional singer and dancer. And sort of like our cultural background, even amongst a lot of Muslims, it's still quite prominent. And singing and dancing and stuff like that, people don't see it as they can't, I don't know, they don't see it as hypocrisy or a, sort of like against Islam. They just don't even question it. It's just part of who they are.
We're probably talking about people who don't even know the concept of hypocrisy. Because that's a thing we have to learn at some point in our lives.
Absolutely.
What is the concept and then how to apply it, and then consistently applying it everywhere.
Yeah, but hypocrisy and lying in general, they overlap, and any kind of situation you can look at a toddler and you can see that the toddler is capable of lying if that's going to serve their purpose. So it's not that this comes out of the void and it's like you can blame it on Islam or any other kind of cultural effect. It's something that's inherently present in any kind of human interaction. It's just that.
Let's name it. Can I name it? The first time we lie, it's to avoid the punishment we expect our parents are going to do.
Yeah, that's very likely. Yes.
And in the normal case, I say normal, like I mean basically every family. The parents are doing bad things. That's why the kid is lying.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be outright punishment, but it could
be a dirty face.
Yeah, well, no. What I mean is that it doesn't have to be punishment that's instigating the lying. It could be that maybe the kid wants something and the parent, for whatever valid or invalid reason,
I can see him doing that second after doing it in the first case in self-defense.
Yeah.
So they learned the tool in self-defense scenario and then reused it in an offensive scenario.
Yeah, but what I was trying to say is that lying can be a way for the toddler to manipulate the parent in order to do what they want to do, and so yes, it is a very, very human thing. Now, there's an extreme situation that says you're not supposed to be lying at all, which is not something that's
which is so goofy to me. Can we name the case right now? Go. You want to finish what you're saying, and I'll.
Well, I was going to point out Sam Harris's book.
Me too.
Lying. And it's a very nice short book.
And he says lying is bad, just straight up all lying.
Yeah, and if you actually follow a lot of the things that a lot of his production, you will see that this theme of avoiding lying is something that's very prominent and constant there. It is something. It's a kind of an ideal to strive to achieve, but in so many different situations, if you find yourself in a place that you're basically weighing your choices, that just the mere fact of making a small lie is going to have a lot of benefit. Sometimes it's something that gets justified. But yeah, he actually puts up a very good case and brings up a lot of examples that.
Well, does he? I never read it. Does he use the example that's very famous in the West, which is when somebody argues all lying is bad, and the other person says, "Well, what if you're in that context where it's the Nazis? You have a house. The Nazis aren't after you, but you have Jews in the basement. You're protecting them. You lie to protect the Jew." What does Sam Harris say about that?
No. Self-preservation, self-defense, things of that sort. He's definitely not averse to that. It's just that.
So, like, what does he really mean when he says all lying is bad? He doesn't mean that.
Well, some people think about things they call, for example, white lies. These lies that might hide the truth. Say someone is dying, and you go and tell them, "No, you're okay," and you're preserving. Is it a good thing to do that, or is it a good thing to tell them the truth that, yeah, there's this situation, you need to know this and this and this about it? So do you prefer to have that person live in the momentary illusion of being okay, or to know that?
He's kind of addressing the very easy cases to figure out. He's not addressing the one I mentioned.
No. I'm just bringing this from memory. I encountered the book a while back, so I can't really specifically say the actual arguments that are presented there. But yeah, it's the fact that he's basically demonstrating that truth in general is going to avoid so many unnecessary complications.
Oh, sure.
That's definitely.
Yeah, I learned very early, don't lie, because then you got to lie more, and that's too complicated. I'm too busy for that. I'm way too busy for that, so I just tell the truth.
Exactly.
And then other times you just kind of avoid saying something, which is you could see as a type of lie, but it's maybe a type of white lie. But actually, I forgot my thought. It's gone now. Here, let me say this. So somebody says, Mulhead, just checking out your claim. Who invented the internet? You're very wrong. I think he thought he was being serious. Mulhead was joking when he said, that was joking. You can tell from the, I don't know, maybe from those little smiley face. I don't know.
Yeah, Mulhead Islam usually makes comments of that sort.
Every single one of his comments is joking. I haven't seen a serious one. Gerwak says, if one is doing it to avoid death, hypocrisy or lying, to avoid death, abuse, or social death, I think it's understandable for sure. Yeah, even when one does not agree with the action.
Absolutely. Yeah. No question there.
So lying is good.
It's morally neutral.
Well, here, let me ask you this: would you say that? What's another variation using the same language style? If you say drinking water is good, well, not if you drink too much water, then you die.
Yeah.
This is a really annoying saying, and it does my head in because it's too reasonable. Somebody I know who's a really annoying moron, but this sticks in my head: moderation, everything in moderation, because too much of anything is going to damage you. and hurt you. So yeah, I really hate that saying because of the person who said it, but it's absolutely true, infuriatingly. But everything in moderation, and I think almost in that sense as well, a lot of things are neutral. I hope not everything is neutral. I don't think everything is neutral actually, because
So like thinking is good until you're overthinking. You right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, look at this one. Gurok says everything in moderation, including moderation.
Oh yeah, that's pinning it. Yeah, that's that.
oh dear.
Yeah, they're just words is the point. This is like getting back to, you got to look at the ideas underneath the words. Like here's another variation I always say. I'm against hate, or like if people say like, it's more like when people say things like, I don't know, I hate Islam or something, and then I might reply, I think we shouldn't hate anything, but that's kind of like saying I hate hate.
Mhm.
Am I hating hate? And does that even have a meaning? Does that even have a meaning?
I think that this is where the word salad comes into play, because sometimes you could overthink something and word salad it, and it turns into a word salad.
Yeah, well, yeah, and that's part of the point. Like if we can break down what we're trying to say into, which we're saying in words, into a concept that isn't necessarily attached to those particular words. I should be able to take any concept I have, use one set of words to explain it, and then use completely different words to explain it again, and not having to have the same fucking words as the other one.
Yeah.
Is that making any sense to everybody?
Yeah.
And by the way, if you can't translate something into other words, then I'd say you don't really know it.
Agreed. Yeah.
You don't really know it.
Yeah, and that generally goes for concepts as a whole. If you're able to explain any concept in really simple words, then you do have an understanding of that concept in the first place.
And I think a lot of what people think are disagreements with each other, I think most of those are not actually disagreements, and they are confusions with each other based on how they're using words differently than each other.
Oh yeah, who was it? Was it Wittgenstein or Foucault who basically produced these misunderstandings or miscommunications that people have to things that have to do with language? I don't necessarily agree with this kind of sweeping statement, and I'm not sure about the attribution right now, but there are people who reduce the entire human discourse into just issues related to language.
I don't really know what that means, but if I was to give an example of the thing I just said, the one that pops up the most, or it's easy to talk about the easiest, is like if I say, okay, we have free will. Well, if you don't know what I mean by free will, you don't know what I mean then. I would first have to say what I mean by free will.
We don't, but okay.
Hey, what?
But yeah, I think it's really frustrating because I'm not a physician, so you guys could use loads of words and I wouldn't have a clue what you're saying. But I think one of the things that I absolutely hate is when people use all this jargon, and especially when politicians, and because I'm from like a campaigning background and stuff like that, so I used to be a socialist and stuff like that, and the amount of jargon they use and like inner speak, like, and double speak and stuff like that. But if other people can't understand you, you're in a cult. And also, if you can't explain things in a simple way that most people can follow, then you're doing something wrong as well. And I just hate that sort of like elitist kind of language and excluding people by being like using jargon and stuff like that. And language has to relate to people's real experiences, I think, in the real world, because that's when it becomes not a word salad and not a theory. It becomes something that affects people's lives, if that makes sense. So, certain words like racism and,
Islamophobia.
yeah, oh my God. Sorry, that word. I think language, yes, it can be a word salad, it can be very theoretical, but at the same time, it can be very it can be very tangible in the sense of the consequences it has and the way it triggers our brains. So if you were to, in the 1980s growing up in the UK, I used to hear all sorts of really vile racist words thrown at me as a brown person in a predominantly white country. And I think sort of like words can make you feel, they can have a physical effect on you. And, they can, this sounds awful, but they can move mountains if they're eloquent enough and they're persuasive enough and stuff like that. So yeah, it's really bizarre because things can be really sort of like pointless when it comes to words, and then at other times they have real consequences and stuff like that as well, if that makes sense. So yeah, so not everything is in moderation. Words aren't in moderation. They can either be really powerful or not powerful at all. I hate the word moderation. I think I've decided that now.
I wonder if you got it because Muhammad talked about moderation a lot.
Oh dear. Oh baby. I didn't know Muhammad talked about moderation a lot.
Go ahead and tell us what Muhammad said about how did he say it?
I mean, there are so many different places where moderation is specifically a word that they try to attach to Islam as the way that is.
You mean after the Quran and Hadith, like way after or during?
Well, no. Even in the Quran itself, you can see claims where Islam is trying to situate itself between the strict rules of Judaism, which it adopts, and the kind of lax rituals that were perceived as Christianity, so it's supposed to be something in between. Muhammad has so many different hadiths that basically try to describe his nation, his people as ummatan wasata. Kuntum ummatan wasata.
Medium.
Yeah,
people that are medium.
In the middle. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So I don't know about that claim. You could actually have something historical to back it. So Fred Donner, he's a researcher in Islamic studies. He has this idea that the early community of Muslims was actually not a community of people who identified as Muslims, but a community of believers that was economical, in the sense that you had Christians, Jews, non-believers, and whatever it is, as long as they have a minimum amount of belief in certain basic tenets, they were able to be part of that community. I don't know how real this was, but this was something that
it sounds like today they promote the idea of Muhammad said moderation as a way to whitewash Islam and to, you know what I mean, like to say, he said don't be extreme, like don't be those fucking terrorists, like that, right?
Yeah, the problem is that you can say the word, but when you actually look at the implementation, you can see a lot of inconsistency. You can.
Well, here's one example on screen.
Absolutely.
13 wives is not moderate.
Yeah.
And he didn't put a limit on the amount of concubines a man can have either, did he?
Yeah. You can have as many as you want, as long as you're able to.
Also, God himself doesn't have limits. What the fuck is eternal hell forever?
Yeah.
Oh,
Where's the moderation there? I don't know.
it's crazy making stuff.
Gillian Stapleton says, fake religion, the only mention of Muhammad in the Bible is in relation to the wolf in sheep's clothing and fake prophet. Muhammad broke every commandment given by Moses.
Yeah, there many Christians promote this idea that there is this prophecy in the Bible about fake prophets, and that Muhammad satisfied the requirements for that, and hence he is fake. I mean, this is a kind of a Christian thing. They're happy to believe it, but the actual quotation from the Bible doesn't specifically. It's generic enough that you can apply it to anybody.
Okay, I don't know where we should go from here. I think maybe we should wind things down. I do have a few things I want to say, and then I guess we could, if we have more to talk about, we could do that right after I make these announcements. The main announcement is, instead of my usual ones, is we have in exactly a week, this coming Friday next week, Apostasy Day live stream event, August 22nd. It's an hour before this one usually starts, which means we can't do this one. So everybody who's watching, and it's going to be on this channel, you don't have to go somewhere else. Ex-Muslims International, the whole coalition of organizations who all have at least the main goal that United the Cults has of ending apostasy laws. This particular day, that's what it's about, but more general, apostophobia being more general. The fear of leaving your religion or religions in general. And Rose is going to be with us, and a bunch of other people. Secular Spirit, Alim, Haram Doodles, Yasmin Al-Barawami. I think I'm saying that right.
Al-Baramwi. I don't know how to pronounce it, sorry.
Al-Barawami, I think.
Baramawi.
Baramawi. I'm switching the letters. M and W. Yes. Yes. So, and the link is in the description. You can find it right now. Click on notify, make sure you're there. Let's see. Do I have other things? What we usually do is, I wanted to say this. Usama, you haven't heard me ask you to be involved in it because, first of all, I never knew when it was going to be until we did know, and it's not the exact time. Can you come early? And then would you want to be involved? What I can do is I can tell you what the parts are and what you might be able to.
Definitely. I mean, this is something that gets marked every year anyway. So.
Okay, cool. So we'll here, and let me. Where I would want you to, without your preferences, what I think I would want you there for is what I think is the main part, which is a discussion panel on approximately asking the question, what are the main obstacles to ending apostasy laws and how do we overcome those obstacles? I think it's very complicated, and having you there would help. We already have 4 people. Having the 5th, maybe as long as we stay organized, it could work. I'll maybe act more like the moderator while you 4
sure,
answer the questions. And again, it's an hour. And by the way, even if you don't show up an hour earlier, like the exact time, it's actually not exact, but roughly the discussion panel on this question starts at, was it 12:40? My time. It's so hard with time zones, man.
I don't think it's going to be a problem either way.
Okay, cool. So I'll just send you the timeline and stuff, and then you can.
Because if you remember when we were arranging for this at the beginning, we picked Friday because there was nothing specific.
Oh yes, and here's the thing: I don't keep the notes of what that was. I don't really know. Okay, well, this is perfect then. Anyway, so let's see what else. Do we have other things? Yeah, I want to highlight a few comments again. I highlighted already a little bit, but I want to do it again. Anon user, who's I think never been here before, said, "Hi, I'm ex-Muslim from Pakistan. I really love your content. Keep it up." Which means he's seen our stuff, but he hasn't posted. Ex-Muslim Asia says, "Ex-Muslim from Malaysia here. Thank you for continuing to do this." And then here's some calls to action, helping our own people, helping us. Those who are watching, please share and subscribe this amazing channel. I missed this one earlier. Usama, have you written a book yet?
There is one in the works, but all the stuff that I have published are physics related, but this one is not going to be.
Okay. Do you want to give a little teaser?
Not yet, maybe. I mean, there's plenty.
What section of the bookstore would it go in? How about that?
Banned books.
Band music bands?
No, BANNED.
Oh. See the words. You got to go deeper than the words.
Yeah.
Let's see if we got a few more comments. I wonder if they're really relevant. Oh, somebody's saying you're welcome to another user. What did he say before? I don't know. What's cool is cool things are happening without us realizing. That's what makes a community.
Yeah.
And then, here we go again. Gerwalk says, please like and subscribe. Please comment on the posted video for the algorithm. Oh, yeah, this is something I learned recently. I heard somebody say this and I looked it up. YouTube does care about people making comments, and that ups the algorithm push, but more so that the comment happens early in the live stream and separate from the live stream. Like a comment happens early after it's live.
Interesting.
Yeah. Connor Dobinson says, how to help if struggling with Islam. How to help leave? I think that's what he means.
Yeah, I mean that's you look at the comment, you see, okay, it seems to be just a simple enough answer, but the actual process when you're looking at someone who's already struggling, it's not the answer is not going to be just, okay, let's leave, let's pack and leave. It's
yeah. Well, it's ambiguous what he means. So Connor, if you're watching, if you could say more details to make it less ambiguous, like what Usama means is, technically speaking, if you just in your mind say, I'm done with fucking Islam, one sentence, you've left. But of course, it's more like
it's more
that's the technical part. The part that's not technical and like the tethers and you got psychology things, you got what I mean? Like you got things like
so many different.
Do you care about identity? A lot of people don't even know what that word is. Do you have a fear of hell? Some people don't.
There are practical issues also that are related to what is it actually to say leave, and how is that struggle happening in the first place?
He gave a little bit of detail. Come meet my family if you dare. He means his family is a obstacle to him leaving Islam.
That's one situation. There are so many different obstacles, whether internal or external. It's if you were raised a Muslim and you're now trying to get out, it's a struggle. That is itself part of the struggle, not just struggling under Islam, but getting out is itself an issue.
And like sometimes they mean, when they say, how do I leave Islam? Sometimes they don't mean just in their heads. Sometimes they mean, how do I live my life in a way that's not Islamic while they're in their state, either in a country that kind of doesn't let them or in a family that doesn't let them, even if they're in a country like the US.
Yeah.
And then somebody's correcting me on, I think they're saying Connor is a she, not a he. And I've heard Connor as a man. I've never heard Connor as a woman. Have you heard that?
I've never heard it as a woman. Yeah, the other thing that I think with leaving Islam or leaving any religion is to reach out to other people who are leaving as well and try and have that conversation, which they're doing, but allow yourself time because it's not going to be something that's overnight.
So, somebody was correcting me again.
I figured I was.
I was confused.
I was going to
See,
say
there's always ambiguity, by the way. In every sentence that anyone says, there's always a non-finite amount of, I shouldn't say that word. There's always an amount of ambiguity. You can never get rid of all ambiguity. Even if you did, you wouldn't know that you did.
Well, language as a way of conveying information, it does have information content, but that doesn't mean that as you're transmitting that information as a signal, that you don't have also some noise that's also being conveyed. So yeah, ambiguity is always probably going to be there no matter what.
Okay, I want to adjust this more. First of all, I'd say this is the most important thing so far happening in this episode. Is this kind of thing. Somebody's wanting advice and their problem is they're struggling with Islam, leaving Islam. So ways that you can, so let's give advice, okay? On a very direct, practical thing, ask us more questions. Not just us, but whoever else you can find that's willing to answer. On the internet, in a call, you could call in. We'll help you. On a grander scale, long term, it's going to be things like, well, depending on what your issue is. If it's a psychological thing, it's things like journaling, therapy, talking, there's like public journaling, meaning like you journal, but you post it online for other ex-Muslims to reply to you, kind of like a pseudo therapy without licensed therapists. You could use an AI as your therapist temporarily until you get a real therapist, although that can be bad also. And I've written posts explaining the bad part and how to do it in a good way. I have to prep ChatGPT and say, you got to give them a good framework to go the right direction.
Building on what you're saying and probably making explicit some kind of an implicit thing that you mentioned, talking to others, but this very idea of having that community of fellow ex-Muslims that are in the same boat as you are, that on its own is going to serve a kind of a partial compensation for whatever component that you might be missing when you get ostracized by your community, when you have possibly some connections being disconnected with your family or friends or whatever. There is an alternative. You do have, unlike maybe if you go back 20, 30 years ago, that kind of community is not something to come by easily. Right now, if you search enough, it's possible to not only come across people who are like-minded, who have gone through the same process, who are dealing with the same struggles. It's also possible to meet them in person under the right circumstances. So this is something that requires some effort, but it's not something that's as impossible as the people who might have been struggling internally, individually, without having to communicate with others, even decades ago. Let alone if you think about that hundreds of years ago.
So another relevant comment, and the context is still the same. Connor asked how to help if struggling with Islam. We're still answering that, and somebody, Gurwak, says, if someone is thinking of leaving Islam, like Connor, what are the YouTubers that we suggest people should listen to? Well, us, Deconstructing Islam, this particular live stream weekly, we have already a series of that was designed for getting out of Islam. Find it on, it's called, I titled it How to De-Indoctrinate Myself. There's 7 parts to it. Now, other people other than us, yes, there's plenty of good ones. Apostate Aladdin, his channel. Secular Spirit, his channel. If I was to say what they do in particular, according to them, Apostate Aladdin says stuff like, I criticize Islam, help people understand that. Secular Spirit focuses on the spiritual side of things and how to be spiritual, but without Islam, without religion.
Mhm.
Who else?
I
Rose?
was going to suggest looking for Zara Kay's channel, because she did a whole series a couple of years ago where she interviewed other ex-Muslims about their life after Islam to show people that there is life after Islam, and you can thrive after it, and it doesn't have to be the be-all and end-all. And she's done some excellent videos about how to tell your family if you feel if it's safe, and also about how to take the hijab off, because it's very difficult because there's so much shame and sort of like and things like that involved with body and stuff like that. And so that was really good. She went on to found a charity called Faithless Hijabi, which the flagship program is the mental health program that they do. They're like team up people with psychiatrists or psychologists to support mental health wise. But we do have, because I volunteer for them with the social media, on Instagram and Facebook is where we tend to be. And one of the channels on Instagram that Zara really particularly likes, as well as our own, is called Happy Whole Way. I'll send it you as a message later, and you maybe put it in the description. But the Happy Whole Way, and it's 2 psychiatrists, licensed therapists, who do a series of Instagram and what they call carousels, like information on Instagram, breaking down how you can leave religion, how you can manage different parts of it, and things like that. They're very good. And it's for all people who leave high control religions. Obviously, it doesn't always directly translate to Islam because we're a very different beast. But a lot of us, like me and Zara and Haram Doodles, we find that really helpful. Another good one is Haram Doodles. If you can follow her on Twitter and Instagram.
Yeah, I was only thinking of YouTube because that directly was the question.
Yeah,
but yeah, I
sorry.
should have been answering about all of them. You're
Sorry.
right.
But yeah, Zara Kay's channel, I think Infidel Noodle, she did an excellent video about the practicalities of leaving Islam. So if you're lucky enough to live in a Western country, things that you can try to do, like make sure you're financially secure and make sure you've got the ability to have your own home, and having practical things sorted out. But Haram Doodles, you do find her on YouTube every now and then because she gets interviewed by people.
She's going to be with us next week.
Exactly. She did an interview with a organization, a YouTuber called Cult to Consciousness. And for people who haven't heard of Cult to Consciousness, they are an excellent YouTuber. They're also one of the social media stuff, but the lady, she interviews people who have left high control religion and cults as well, and she did an excellent series of ex-Muslims who have left, and Haram Doodle, Zara Kay, Infidel Noodle, Apostate Aladdin, and a couple of lesser known ex-Muslims who are activists are on there as well that she did. So yeah, I'll check out Cult to Consciousness, really good as well.
This is excellent news that I'm hearing on this comment, right? That's on the screen.
Oh, thank you.
Anon user says Faithless Hijabi is doing amazing work. I took therapy sessions from Faithless Hijabi. I'm guessing for free or partially discounted. They were really amazing. That's good
I'm
to
glad
hear.
to hear it. No, that's brilliant. I only ever do the social media side of things and putting things together. But some of the work I hear they do behind the scenes that I don't get to see, it looks like really taxing stuff. So, hats off to them. And I'm glad it's helping. If I hate to ask and raise the issue of funds and that, but if people are able to donate,
Good. Please do. Yes.
yeah. If people are able to donate, that would be great, because it can be a real headache getting funding and things like that. And nobody in Faithless Hijabi has a salary. It's all completely, we put in our own money and time and effort into it. So if people can donate, it doesn't have to be money, but money would be preferred. But if people want to volunteer, that would be great as well.
Yes, and I just I'm posting a comment here. Please donate to Faithless Hijabi so they can continue providing free and partially paid therapy for ex-Muslims.
If there is some kind of a specific link where people can be directed.
Yeah, let me get it real quick. I should have done that in that comment. I'll do it again.
Yeah,
I'll find it easy because it's easy right on the main page. Right on the
it might also be a good idea. I don't know about putting it in the description if there's a specific link.
Yeah, it's linked in other places, like especially in that series I talked about how to de-indoctrinate myself. The last episode is the one focused where I designed it as a funnel to Faithless Hijabi therapy.
Okay.
Let me do this again. Edit. Do I edit? I can't edit. So let me do this. I'm gonna have to retype it. I don't know how to do this. Please donate to Faithless Hijabi. No, I can't type. Is my J not working? I think I need a new keyboard. Free and partially paid therapy for ex-Muslims. And here's the link. And then here's the link for Apostasy Aladdin. Oh, this is cool. Anon user says, I write poetry for Faithless Hijabi as a volunteer.
Oh, hey. I know who this person is then. Yeah.
I felt that because at one point there was a comment that they said,
I'm that friend.
Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Okay, brilliant. We have a writers club. For ex-Muslims who want to either write poetry or write about their experience of deconstructing Islam, or want to like splash some paint and do some art to express themselves, and or sing a song or something like that. We haven't had any singers yet, but anything like that. If people want to get in touch with us, that is brilliant.
Oh, that's wonderful. And
there's the link for Secular Spirits YouTube. So this is probably a good stopping point. We're kind of long. We have a delay in people commenting, so let's stop right here before somebody posts another comment. All right, everyone. We'll see you next week for Apostasy Day.
All right. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye. Take it easy.